All right, welcome back to the next episode. So where are we at here? Well, we've checked the clearances on the main bearings, and you might recall with this plastic gauge, when I measured this, it showed that we were right there about, let's see here, that's millimeters. Oops. Let's go to the other side here. So we're right there about 15 thousandths. So on just about all of them, boom, 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 and boom. All right. And the book says that suggested LS bearing clearances on stock to moderate high performance should be in the main bearing between 0008 and 0021. So we're between that. All right, we're not up to this moderate high performance to racing. So we're stock to moderate high performance. Probably on the little, instead of in the center of that range, probably a little bit above that. All right, so that's where we're at in pre-assembly. Next thing it says here, when you're done, clean all remnants of plastic gauge from the crank journal or remove the crankshaft from the engine block. So let's go ahead and get ready to move this from the engine block, and we're gonna need to clean it anyway. So there we go. This baby's heavy. All right. So, I'm going to use my lint-free rags, plus a little bit of, let's see, that's rubbing alcohol. This is mineral spirits. Spirits, all right. And that plastic gauge cleans up really nice with the mineral spirits. All right, so when you're done, clean all the remnants. I got that and remove the crankshaft. Did that. All right, check crankshaft runout. Remove all upper main bearing shells from the block except 1 and 5, front and rear. Clean these remaining shells, lubricate them with oil, then set the crank in place atop them. Lube 1 and 5 main journals on it too. Set a dial indicator to measure along the surface of the number 3 center main journal, being sure the indicator's tip won't drop into the crank oiling holes. Spin the crank over and note the highest and lowest readings on the dial indicator. The difference between them is what is important, and anything more than 1,000th or so is cause for possible concern. Total acceptable runout varies by application, so if you see anything that perturbs you, consult your machine shop. They may even have suggestions for straightening your crank that you may find surprising, like torquing your main caps in place and letting this straighten the crank out for you. You should also move the dial indicator to the rear of the crank and measure runout on the rear flange where the rear seal rides. Runout here can't exceed 0.002. Please note that because there will be no thrust bearing in place during the runout checking process, you may hear the reluctor ring dragging lightly along the rear of the engine block. This is normal. All right, so the next step is to check crankshaft runout. And it says here, remove all upper main bearing shells from the block except number 1 and 5. So come on over. So we're moving all the main bearing shells. Set these down. Clean these remaining shells, lubricate them with oil, then set the crank in place atop them. Lube the 1 in 5 main journals. So I'm gonna just kind of wipe down number 1 and number 5. I'm gonna take some oil and lube them up. And this is just SAE 30 heavy duty engine oil. Alright, so I've lubed up 1 and 3. I'm going to put the crank back in there. Alright. One second. I need to get this out of the way. This will come back later. So then it says to lube the 1 in 5 main journals. I'm gonna throw some more oil on here. And here, with your other hand, can you hold this? Just hold at the bottom. Look how nicely that's turning. Hopefully this brush won't leave too many bristles. Set the dial indicator to measure along the surface of the number 3 main journal, being sure that the indicator's tip won't drop into the oil holes as the crank is turned. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and put this guy back on here, and we're measuring this one right here. Now, I picked this up at Harbor Freight, so hopefully this will do me well. I'm not really sure, but we will see. And then tighten this down. You put your dial indicator on here, the thing you want to measure. You tighten this down, and this locks into place. And then all I have to do now is zero it out. All right, is that zeroed? What do you think? And then it says spin the crank over and note the highest and lowest readings on the dial indicator. The difference between them is what is important. Anything more than 1/1000th is cause to be concern. Total acceptable runout varies by application, so if you see anything that perturbs you, consult your machine shop. Does that look blurry to you? No. Okay. Are you ready? Let's spin it. So we're gonna do it until this comes to the top again. Ready? Look at that. Is that amazing, or is that amazing? Did you see that? Each little line here is 1/1000th. So let's zero it out again. All right, and let's spin it. And it measures the deviation. Look at that. That needle is barely moving. Look at that. That is incredible. It says you should also move the dial indicator to the rear of the crank and measure runout on the rear flange where the R-E-A-R. I can never say the word rear. Yeah. Rear. If I say it slowly, I can hear it say it. R-E-A-R. Seal rides. Runout here can exceed 0.002. Please note that because there will be no thrust bearing in place during the runout checking process, you may hear a reluctor ring dragging lightly along the rear of the engine block. This is normal. I didn't hear any reluctor ring dragging, so that's good. And we're gonna check. We're gonna, just for fun, we're gonna check. This is what we're checking right here. This part right here. So let me loosen this up. Let me attach this to something. Let's see here. Harbor Freight too is doing pretty good, huh? What'd you say? Mm-hmm. For as cheap as it was. So we're back, and unfortunately, this little gizmo thing here was kind of hard to configure for this spot. So what I did was I also got a magnetic base from Harbor Freight, and that costs like $13. That can hold the same runout dial. So I've got that set up. I've got it zeroed. This journal as a reference point. I'm going to use this as a reference, so I'm going to spin it around until this comes back to the top. Ready? All right, we're back to the top. Did that deflect any? Not much. Not much. I mean, it's almost perfect. I'd say it is perfect. All right, you can stop. All right, see, I'm on step number 9 now. Install crankshaft with lubricated bearings. And it says here, now remove the crankshaft. Install and lubricate the remaining upper main bearing shells in the block. Set the crank atop them. Lube all main journals. Then install all main caps with lubricated lower main bearing shells. Use the instructions and sequences detailed in steps 6 through 8, chapter 8, for main cap installation and tightening. Be sure to use a hammer to align the thrust bearing surfaces. The crank should now move freely by hand. If it does not, repeat the thrust bearing alignment procedure. If this does not cure the problem, something may be wrong with your block's main bearing bores and their alignment, possibly requiring line honing. All right, so the bottom line here is we're going to take the crank out, put all the bearings in, put the crank in, lube it, put the bearing on the main caps, lube that up, and then basically install it as if it was the final step. Okay, stop.
All right, here we go.
All right, so I'm assembling putting everything back, the bearings in here, and now I'm going to put the crank in. This baby's heavy. All right, and then I need to put the caps on. So remember these guys? Well, I've already put the bearings on here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and lube this up. Again, SAE 30 oil, heavy duty. If I'm doing something wrong, let me know in the comments down below. All right. I'm gonna put this guy on here. And you see this is what's called a cap. So it caps, it puts a cap on it and it holds the crank in place. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw these by hand. I'm gonna just use the old ones. I don't know if I'm taking a chance on that. All right, cap number 2 with the new bearing installed. some oil. It's a shame I gotta take it all apart, and this is only for testing. But that's what the book insists. So I will follow the book. But so far, everything has been well within spec. There has been no issues so far. Let's hope that trend continues. So learned here, make sure you clean all the plastic gauge off the upper bearings, because I forgot to, and I just noticed it on one of them that it was not clean. So I'm going to take some cleaner here. Clean the plastic gauge off. Plastic gauge is off. So, okay. So, in case you missed it a moment ago, when I was putting the caps with the lower bearings on those caps back on, as I was lubing them up, I discovered, and it unfortunately it took me till I got to number 5 before I realized it, that I never cleaned the plastic gauge off the bearings. So basically I had to remove all the caps, clean the plastic gauge off the bearing, lube it back up, put them back on. So that's what I've done. I'm back to basically where I was before, except I've got all 5 of them on now, plus I've screwed in by hand the side bolts as well. So now I have to go to my instructions in the book for the final torque down. Okay, so over here at the book, torque all M10 inner main bolts according to this diagram in the sequence shown to 15 pounds. Okay, so we're going to go to 15 pounds. I'm going to use this click style. This is a cheapo. I've got a much better torque wrench. It does angles and everything, but this one's nice and easy to use. This is set to 15 pounds right now. So I'm going to go ahead and do these inners, and we're going to get this over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Before proceeding further, you must use a rubber mallet to hit the crank rearward, then forward with a rubber mallet. This aligns the thrust bearing surfaces, and it's important to note that the final thrust of the crank must be in the forward direction. All right, so I feel a little awkward hitting this engine with a hammer, but that's what the instructions call for. All right, I don't know how much I'm supposed to hit it. I'm assuming that that's correct. Let's see here. All right, now I gotta whack it forward. So how are we gonna do this? Because the engine mount is blocking it. So I think what I'm gonna do is go ahead and put this in here like so. Put this in here like so. And then whack the crap out of it. That'll do what I need it to do. Ready? Again, I don't know how much it takes, but we'll see. Here, you can pull back a little bit. I have this torque wrench, which I got from Harbor Freight, the digital torque wrench. And got this guy on sale. Normally runs about 170, I think. Got it on sale for 120 something after a coupon, and it does torque plus angle. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this guy on and set it up for 80 degrees. Now, I'll be honest, this Quinn brand, I haven't obviously tried any others. Normally I'm a big fan of Harbor Freight tools, but this Quinn brand, it's not worked very elegant for me thus far. I've had to pull the batteries out of it a couple times to reset it. And is my camera person doing a good job here? You're cutting off my head?
Somewhat, yes.
All right. That's okay. Nobody needs to see my ugly face anyway.
Oh. Don't say that.
I'll do a fire my camera person.
Don't say that. Hey,
All right.
You're fired from a volunteer job.
I mean, I could have just put my GoPro on my forehead and been done with it, but I thought I'd make this more interesting for my volunteers.
Yeah.
See? Error 4. Now, how lousy is that? So when that happens, take the batteries out, basically power it down and power it back up again. So I'm just gonna loosen that because the power goes out anyway and turn it back on. So at this point, I can't recommend a Quinn brand digital torque wrench, unfortunately. So let's see. What will it get me my angles? I'm guessing it will, and it seems about right when I've used it in the past. This is why I don't use it for torque, and I use the clicker because it's just too much of a hassle to switch back and forth. So
moments later.
not a big fan of this one.
More moments later.
So while we're waiting for this to reset, and look what it does when it's trying to reset, it flashes zeros.
20 minutes later.
How do you do angle torques? What's your favorite brand? Leave me a comment. Let me know, because I'm about to ready to take this guy back. Harbor Freight, here I come. Error 4 again. What a lousy piece of bleep.